Oh boy. I got a feeling I'm going to catch hell over this one in the comments, but I'm recording this before I'm releasing the video, so who's to say? Sometimes people surprise me every once in a while. And let me tell you why. So this figure is good. It's a good figure. There's nothing inherently wrong with it as a thing. The problem is when you start thinking about this figure in terms of it being a masterpiece and what that means to you. Now, a lot of people love this character. It's kind of a cult classic in that regard. It has a very dedicated fan base that have been waiting for a long time to get one. I mean, we saw third-party Overlords tees way back in the day, 5 years ago. Not that they came out, but it's been in the consciousness. And this is the first real proper masterpiece scaled Overlord. And it's good. It's good, and it's probably good enough. The problem with FANSHOBBY that I continue to see is that they are making a figure that looks like a toy right out of the toy box. And in my opinion, it shouldn't. It's that big, chunky plastic. Like, there's so much good about this. The sculpt and the engineering and the articulation is fantastic and all that stuff. But I keep bringing this up, but a lot of times it just comes down to intent, right? Like, what is one's intention upon buying this piece? And I can't speak for everybody. You know, I can only speak for myself. And I know, trust me, I get tons of feedback. But for me, like, I want this stuff posed. I want to sit and marvel at it and have it be rewarding and gratifying that I bought this, like, ultimate example or rendition of this character. And my problem with this is, in spite of how good it is, it looks cheaper than it is. It's not built as cheap as it looks. It's not sculpted as cheap as it looks. It's not designed as cheap as it looks. It doesn't have the hardware that its looks would suggest. But just based on the looks, it looks cheap as shit to me. Like, it just looks like something I would find in my nephew's house or something, like in the basement. It doesn't have that pop. It doesn't have that finish. And to me, that's so important. And I know a lot of people give me grief about paint and all the paint scratching and but the truth is there's plenty of companies that have done it and done it very well. It doesn't mean that there's a lot that haven't, because there are, and there's been paint chipping and such. But, like, I'll take a piece of paint chipping here and there at a small little break in the sculpt or at a joint or something. Like, give me that. Give me a little chip. If that one little iota is just a small, minuscule blemish on a great, outstanding, marvelous looking piece, and this could be that. And to be fair, there's not a lot of parts of this that, like, scratch and slide and smash up against one another. It's fairly elegant in that regard. So I just feel like this would have been an easy one to throw some paint on. Even if it was just the blue and the turquoise that were painted, it would have done it. Obviously, the blue, turquoise, and gray would have been great, but I think they could have gotten away with just the blue and the turquoise. But they didn't. There's nothing finished about this. It's just paint accents. And the paint accents are nice, but it doesn't elevate the figure to the potential that you know it could be. And here comes the other part of this conversation that I think is a little bit more risque or sensitive. I think people like this. Let me rephrase that. I think people love this and think it's so amazing because it's big. And they're just happy to have something big. And it doesn't mean that there's nothing about that makes it bad. Of course, it's just that, like, just because it's big doesn't mean it's good. I think there's a lot of people that are used to buying, like, mainline Transformers, and because this kind of reminds them of it, it feels better to them. Whereas I don't really give a shit about mainline Transformers and haven't since I was 5. So there's nothing about it calling back to that feeling that makes me feel any other type of way other than disappointed and sort of uninterested. Sometimes bigger doesn't mean better. Sometimes bigger simply means bigger.